elevation corresponding to the incisura angularis, and b. the circular projection of the duodenal pyloric constriction, which forms the pyloric valve. The separation of the pyloric antrum from the rest of the pyloric part is scarcely indicated. The pyloric valve, valvula pylori, is formed by a reduplication of the mucous membrane of the stomach, covering a muscular ring composed of a thickened portion of the circular layer of the muscular coat. Some of the deeper longitudinal fibers turn in and interlace with the circular fibers of the valve. Structure. The wall of the stomach consists of 4 coats: serous, muscular, areolar, and mucous, together with vessels and nerves. The serous coat, tunica serosa, is derived from the peritoneum and covers the entire surface of the organ, excepting along the greater and lesser curvatures at the points of the attachment of the greater and lesser ommenta. Here the 2 layers of peritoneum leave a small triangular space, along which the nutrient vessels and nerves pass. On the posterior surface of the stomach, close to the cardiac orifice, there is also a small area uncovered by peritoneum, where the organ is in contact with the undersurface of the diaphragm. The muscular coat, tunica muscularis, is situated immediately beneath the serous covering, with which it is closely connected. It consists of 3 sets of smooth muscle fibers, longitudinal, circular, and oblique. The longitudinal fibers, stratum longitudinale, are the most superficial and are arranged in 2 sets. The first set consists of fibers continuous with the longitudinal fibers of the esophagus. They radiate in a stellate manner from the cardiac orifice and are practically all lost before the pyloric portion is reached. The second set commences on the body of the stomach and passes to the right, its fibers becoming more thickly distributed as they approach the pylorus. Some of the more superficial fibers of this set pass on to the duodenum, but the deeper fibers dip inward and interlace with the circular fibers of the pyloric valve. The circular fibers, stratum circulare, form a uniform layer over the whole extent of the stomach beneath the longitudinal fibers. At the pylorus they are most abundant, and are aggregated into a circular ring, which projects into the lumen and forms, with the fold of mucous membrane covering its surface, the pyloric valve. They are continuous with the circular fibers of the esophagus, but are sharply marked off from the circular fibers of the duodenum. The oblique fibers, fibri obliqui, internal to the circular layer, are limited chiefly to the cardiac end of the stomach, where they are disposed as a thick uniform layer covering both surfaces, some passing obliquely from left to right, others from right to left, around the cardiac end. The areolar or submucous coat, tela submucosa, consists of a loose areolar tissue connecting the mucous and muscular layers. The mucous membrane, tunica mucosa, is thick and its surface is smooth, soft, and velvety. In the fresh state it is of pinkish tinge at the pyloric end and of a red or reddish-brown color over the rest of its surface. In infancy it is of a brighter hue, the vascular redness being more marked. It is thin at the cardiac extremity, but thicker toward the pylorus. During the contracted state of the organ it is thrown into numerous plates or rugae, which for the most part have a longitudinal direction, and are most marked toward the pyloric end of the stomach and along the greater curvature. These folds are entirely obliterated when the organ becomes distended. Structure of the mucous membrane. When examined with a lens, the inner surface of the mucous membrane presents a peculiar honeycomb appearance from being covered with small shallow depressions or alveoli of a polygonal or hexagonal form, which vary from 0.12 to 0.25 millimeters in diameter. These are the ducts of the gastric glands, and at the bottom of each may be seen 1 or more minute orifices, the openings of the gland tubes. The surface of the mucous membrane is covered by a single layer of columnar epithelium with occasional goblet cells. This epithelium commences very abruptly at the cardiac orifice, where there is a sudden transition from the stratified epithelium of the esophagus. The epithelial lining of the gland ducts is of the same character and is continuous with the general epithelial lining of the stomach. The gastric glands. The gastric glands are of 3 kinds: A. Pyloric, B. Cardiac, and C. Fundus or oxyntic glands. They are tubular in character and are formed of a delicate basement membrane consisting of flattened, transparent endothelial cells lined by epithelium. The pyloric glands are found in the pyloric portion of the stomach. They consist of 2 or 3 short closed tubes opening into a common duct or mouth. These tubes are wavy and are about 1/2 the length of the duct. The duct is lined by columnar cells, continuous with the epithelium lining the surface of the mucous membrane of the stomach, the tubes by shorter and more cubical cell, which are finely granular. The cardiac glands, few in number, occur close to the cardiac orifice. They are of two kinds: 1. Simple tubular glands resembling those of the pyloric end of the stomach, but with short ducts. 2. Compound racemose glands resembling the duodenal glands. The fundus glands are found in the body and fundus of the stomach. They are simple tubes, 2 or more of which open into a single duct. The duct, however, in these glands is shorter than in the pyloric variety, sometimes not amounting to more than 1/6 of the whole length of the gland. It is lined throughout by columnar epithelium. The gland tubes are straight and parallel to each other. At the point where they open into the duct, which is termed the neck, the epithelium alters, and consists of short columnar or polyhedral granular cells, which almost fill the tube, so that the lumen becomes suddenly constricted and is continued down as a very fine channel. They are known as the chief or central cells of the glands. Between these cells and the basement membrane, larger oval cells, which stain deeply with eosin, are found. These cells are studded throughout the tube at intervals, giving it a beaded or varicose appearance. These are known as the parietal or oxyntic cells, and they are connected with the lumen by fine channels which run into their substance. Between the glands, the mucous membrane consists of a connective tissue framework with lymphoid tissue. In places, this later tissue, especially in early life, is collected into little masses, which to a certain extent resemble the solitary nodules of the intestine, and are termed the lenticular glands of the stomach. They are not, however, so distinctly circumscribed as the solitary nodules. Beneath the mucous membrane, and between it and the submucous coat, is a thin stratum of involuntary muscular fiber, muscularis mucosae, which in some parts consists only of a single longitudinal layer, in others of 2 layers, an inner circular and an outer longitudinal. Vessels and nerves. The arteries supplying the stomach are the left gastric, the right gastric, and the right gastroepiploic branches of the hepatic, the left gastroepiploic and short gastric branches of the lyinal. They supply the muscular coat, ramify in the submucous coat, and are finally distributed to the mucous membrane. The arrangement of the vessels in the mucous membrane is somewhat peculiar. The arteries break up at the base of the gastric tubules into a plexus of fine capillaries which run upward between the tubules, anastomosing with each other, and ending in a plexus of larger capillaries which surround the mouths of the tubes, and also form hexagonal meshes around the ducts. From these the veins arise, and pursue a straight course downward between the tubules to the submucous tissue. They end either in the lyinal and superior mesenteric veins or directly in the portal vein. The lymphatics are numerous. They consist of a superficial and a deep set, and pass to the lymph glands found along the 2 curvatures of the organ. The nerves are the terminal branches of the right and left vagi, the former being distributed upon the back, and the latter upon the front part of the organ. A great number of branches from the celiac plexus of the sympathetic are also distributed to it. Nerve plexuses are found in the submucous coat and between the layers of the muscular coat as in the intestine. From these plexuses, fibrils are distributed to the muscular tissue and the mucous membrane. End of section 18.